semana, Vice News presenta Metanfetaminas en Filipinas. Viajamos a Manila para conocer el incremento en el consumo y la adicción a la metanfetamina, conocida como Shabu, e investigamos el tráfico de drogas que existe en la región.
Dahil kapag nakatikim ka nito, parang gusto mo na siya eh.
Y después, la lucha contra el ébola.
Ébola is a deadly disease. You must understand it.
Visitamos Liberia para conocer desde el epicentro de la epidemia en África occidental cómo se combatió esta enfermedad mortal. Filipinas sufre un problema de adicción a las metanfetaminas que ha ido en aumento. Actualmente, esta droga se puede encontrar en la mayoría de los barrios de su capital y es comúnmente conocida como Shabu. Vice News investigó el tráfico de drogas en Filipinas y los lazos que tiene con el cártel de Sinaloa, que se ha podido establecer debido a la corrupción que impera en el país.
The Philippines' drug trade is worth an estimated $8.4 billion. Shabu, the local name for crystal meth, has for the last 20 years dominated the market. Its popularity as a stimulant, fueled by grueling work hours and a profound lack of opportunities, has made it the go-to drug for those looking to work longer hours to earn more money. But while the country's drug trade has traditionally been controlled by Chinese drug traffickers, earlier this year, police in Manila arrested Horacio Hernandez Herrera, an alleged third-in-command to Mexico's infamous Sinaloa cartel, one of the world's most powerful and deadly drug trafficking organizations. We spoke to Colonel Espino of the Philippine National Police to find out why Shabu is so popular and the challenges law enforcement face in the country.
Hi, Colonel.
Hi.
How are you? Thank you for meeting us.
Yes.
What do you think it is about Shabu that makes it so popular in the Philippines?
It is cheap. It's very cheap.
So it's quite easy to get it and find it.
Yes. And the particular drugs that they are selling, can be afforded by ordinary people here.
And what are the sort of main challenges for the PNP and the PDA when it comes to tackling drug trafficking organizations in the country?
Well, what we could say here is the drug trafficker really have a lot of money. They could buy the law enforcer. They could reach up to the judiciary, the prosecutors, and you must have really a strong moral conviction,
Right.
not to be tempted with those bribery. On the street level, we are being helped by our community who help us pinpoint what particular barangay or places in the community are rampant in illegal drugs.
With a staggering 92% of Manila's barangay neighborhoods estimated to be affected by Shabu, we met with an informant working with the Philippine DEA to find out how Shabu was affecting her neighborhood.
Kaya pag nasa area na tayo, kung pwede ibaba natin yung camera para hindi tayo masunog sa trabaho.
The confidential informant has now joined us in the back of the vehicle, and we're going to drive into her neighborhood where she's going to identify the locations where dealers are distributing Shabu into the neighborhood.
This house number 110, 2 pushers in there. Okay, there's another 1 pusher in there. That one, number 197, the one with the green color at the left side, the name is this one of the big pusher in here.
How long have you been an informant for the PDEA?
Just recently, because I cannot take anymore. I can't take anymore. No, just to keep silent. No, I wanted them to be in
arrested,
jail.
yeah.
Yes, I wanted them to be arrested and put in jail.
Why do you think Shabu is so popular in Manila and your district here?
We have a very low punishment.
So gangs don't fear the
Yes,
police?
the gangs don't fear. Those drug peddlers don't fear because of the justices. If the death penalty should come back in our justice system, I think the best.
With a quarter of Filipinos living in poverty, Shabu's affordability and accessibility have made it the drug of choice, with open abuse becoming the norm in Manila's poorer areas. We met with one user to find out how he got into Shabu.
JR, how old are you and was the first time you took Shabu?
Nagsimula ako nito, 17 ako. 18 years old na ako ngayon, mag-19 sa November. Ang una nagpatry sa akin nito, pinsan ko, nabuyo lang kasi ako. Nagkayayaan, ayoko sumama yun. Yung sumama ako, yung sumama na lahat yun, sumama na rin ako. Tayo na anit ko, yan, hay na, nawala yung lasing ko.
JR took us to meet with some of his friends who've been smoking Shabu for over 20 years.
Hi guys, ¿cómo está?
Okay lang. Hindi, bangko, bigyan mo.
This is 2,400 pesos worth, which would last these guys quite a long time. Russ, why do you think Shabu is so popular?
Dahil kapag nakatikim ka nito, parang gusto mo na siya eh. Ito ang nakakagustuhan ng Pilipinas dito sa amin. Ito yan, pag nakahit-hit ka yan, mga 3 oras ang tama niyan. Tapos pag maghahanap ka na naman.
So, when you take a hit of Shabu, how does it make you feel?
Yung magangang pakiramdam mo, yung marami kang magandang iniisip.
Do a lot of people that use Shabu also then get into selling it to try and feed their habit?
Oo, kasi ganun din ang nangyari sa akin. Nagbenta rin ako nito eh. Kasi ito karamihan talaga pinauutang nila to eh. Pinakukonsign ba? Pinauutang para ibenta mo. Pag di mo binayaran, wala. Hahanapin ka nun. Papatayin ka na nila.
Cheap and highly addictive, using and dealing Shabu clearly has its risks. We managed to gain access to one small-scale operation typical to Manila to find out how their setup worked.
So, Joaquin, can you tell me what you're doing here?
Tinitimbang namin yung para ibigay sa mga tao. May mga isang bulto, isang wampon, pinaparte-parte namin para distribute.
How much is here on the table right now?
Nasa 300,000. Mamayang gabi, wala ubos na to, nasa mga tao na to, bibenta na lang nila to.
You're very well aware of the effects that Shabu has on people and the stranglehold it can have on their lives. How does that make you feel being involved in this business?
Mahalo rin namin yan. Maramdaman din namin na medyo talaga kung saan. Pasensya rin namin,
hindi namin binibigyan ng pansin yung ganun mga nararamdaman namin dahil kailangan din namin ng pera eh.
Pagka papatado kami sa damdamin ng awa sa kanila na.
Walang mangyayari.
May epektuhan din kami na eh.
Do you want to expand your operation to other barangays? Are you pretty happy with the territory you currently control?
Siguro sa ngayon okay na yung ganito. Dahil pagka nag-interest pa kami ng ibang lugar eh, sigurado patay na naman yan.
And you're ready to kill to protect your business?
Nangyayari na ngayon.
Siyempre.
Nagawa na talaga namin para wag
hindi po pwedeng
kasi kung kami gagawa ganun.
Hindi ganun kadali. Hindi ganun kadali para nakuha namin yung ganitong lugar.
So in January, we saw a Mexican Sinaloa cartel member arrested in Manila carrying a large amount of Shabu. Have you seen any Mexican involvement in the Shabu trades over the years?
Parang galing sa China yung parang ma-imported yung mga Ngayon, sa ngayon, yung mga dito na ginagawa. Pag tumutuno rito, na ipabigay na nila, wala na sila pakialam ng mga anta.
Alam na yun, mga mabibigat din talaga yun. Kaya lang, hindi pa masyado sila nakakaano nito.
Ito ng Pilipinas sa pinangan.
An overwhelming 89% of narcotic arrests in Manila this year were Shabu-related, creating fierce competition amongst local gangs. To find out more about the shifting relationships between foreign drug syndicates, we met with Chief Inspector Murder of the Anti-Illegal Drug Special Operations Task Force, who headed up this year's arrest to suspected Sinaloa member Horacio Hernandez Herrera.
Based on our experiences, the syndicates operating in the country are the Chinese syndicates and now the Mexican Sinaloa drug cartel that started to operate in the country. But lately, we have observed the local Chinese drug syndicates have cooperated or worked together with the Mexican Sinaloa drug cartel.
And how does that relationship work exactly?
Based on the report, the working relationship between the Mexican Sinaloa and the local Chinese syndicates is more on distribution of the finished product coming from the Mexico.
So Mexico delivers finished meth or shabu to the Chinese, who then import it into the country?
That's it, yes.
And could you tell me what are the main ports of entry and how are they able to smuggle so much in without being noticed?
The drugs coming from abroad enters through the customs and of course the vast shoreline of the Philippines. The drugs are dropped from the open sea waters in the oceans and picked up by some local cohorts of the syndicate.
And what do you think it is about the Philippines that is so attractive to these foreign cartels?
The perceived corruption among the pillars of the criminal justice system.
Corruption appeared to be at every level, but to see just how true these claims were, we reached out to a former member of the Philippine National Police to talk about his experience with bribery and corruption within the police force.
How long were you in the police force and what departments did you work in?
I entered in the police service since 1984 up to 2014. Mas obserbasyon ko ngayon, sa 100 cops, siguro mga 10 na lang yung talagang mabait.
At any time during your service, did you ever take a bribe?
Oo, nakatanggap din ako. Pero hindi naman malaki. Ano lang, ibigay din ng mga kasamahan ko. Abutan ako ng for the boys ng mga kasama ko. Oh, tanggap ko na rin kasi magsasalita ka, nasa ano ka na, tatapong ka na sa kangkungan o sa halimbawa sa tapunan ng patay, gano'n. Delikado.
So we're driving around Tondo waiting for a phone call from one of the delivery guys, and his job is to deliver larger amounts of shabu to a number of street-level dealers who will then sell on the shabu to the users in the district. Joseph, how much shabu are you carrying on you right now and how much is it worth?
Eh, nasa mga 9 grams, mga 7,000.
Have you seen over the past couple of years like an increase in demand for shabu?
Oo, dumadami. Minsan nadagdagan. Marami na rin yung gumagamit eh. Kailangan.
We're now going to follow Joseph on his bike as he delivers the shabu to 2 of the street-level dealers. So given the high demand for shabu, Joseph has to make 2 of these runs every single day. So he's just dropped off some to this guy.
Where the Philippines had fallen short in creating opportunities for its poorest, Shabu was picking up the slack, be it turning the unemployed into dealers or enabling users to work even longer hours. The Sinaloa cartel, working alongside the well-established Chinese gangs, sets a dangerous precedent, one that the corruption within the police and government will make so much harder to tackle, compounding the misery for those plagued by the drug.
Durante el peor brote de ébola en África Occidental en 2014, el periodista de Vice News, Danny Gold, viajó a Liberia para conocer de primera mano la situación de las personas que padecen esta enfermedad altamente contagiosa y las condiciones de los habitantes que lidian con esta crisis de salud.
Ebola, an infectious disease that spreads through contact with bodily fluids, including saliva and sweat, has an extremely high fatality rate and is currently wreaking havoc in West Africa. The recent outbreak, which is the largest of all time, really took hold in March of 2014 in Guinea. It quickly spread to Liberia and Sierra Leone, with cases also found in Senegal, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Nigeria.
As we gather here today, people of Liberia are in crisis. The Ebola virus is spreading at alarming speed. This epidemic could kill hundreds of thousands of people in the coming months.
Right as US President Barack Obama announced that he would be sending American troops to help combat the epidemic, Vice News headed to Monrovia, the capital of Liberia, to document the fight against the disease. What we're picking up here right now is the first line of defense against Ebola, which is chlorine. So besides washing your hands, this right here, this is key. And you'll see people walking around with spray buckets, with just like little satchels or little canisters on their belts. We first headed to Redemption Hospital, which has become ground zero for Ebola cases in the city. As soon as we arrived, we saw desperate people outside trying to get treatment. I'm sorry, sir. Are you okay?
He went in the latrine 7 times.
So he has the virus?
Yes.
So why can't we get him inside right now?
Everywhere's occupied.
Everywhere's occupied?
Yeah, occupied.
Okay. The gentleman we were just talking to outside who's been waiting out there for 2 hours, he's clearly very sick. He clearly has the virus, but there's just no space, and there's really no one there that's taking care of him. Everything is completely overwhelmed. You know, the man's gonna sit out there. There's nothing anyone can do right now. There's just a complete shortage of medical professionals, of healthcare facilities, of space to treat this disease. We then heard a commotion around the side of the hospital. A female patient, scared and wanting to see her family, had fled out a side exit. Hospital staff tried to get her to go back inside as a crowd formed. There's a crowd of people right by the exit of the hospital where patients are coming out. Clearly not the right way to contain this disease. Some in the crowd told us that they were family members of sick patients, upset about not being able to see and get updates on their loved ones.
Our people are sick, people die every day.
We then headed to a clinic run by Doctors Without Borders, also known as Médecins Sans Frontières, or MSF. That morning, MSF had stopped admitting new patients because of a planned expansion, and because one of their expat healthcare workers had tested positive for Ebola. MSF had been on the front lines fighting Ebola since the beginning of the outbreak, and had been pleading with the international community for more attention for some time. They too, however, are forced to turn away patients. Across the street, we met Victor Marcos, who was trying to get his older brother admitted to a treatment center, with no luck. Have you tried to go to the hospital? They say no. Call the ambulance, call the ambulance. Nothing. What can you do now? What can you do?
Nothing that I don't know, nothing that I can do because I don't have any hospital to take me. I don't have ambulance to go for air and bring here. Like only when you go. So I don't know what to do. I'm confused.
While we were talking to Victor, a woman who lived nearby approached and told us that some sick people in her community had been turned away from the clinic. They had just returned home, and she feared they might spread the virus.
They say that people refuse them, there is no space, there is no bed. So they come back in the community, it's dangerous for us.
And that's how it spreads further, because now they're back, yeah.
They are very sick, they were vomiting, toileting on themselves, they're going to their house.
Where are they right now?
They're behind there, they're living on the other side.
And you call ambulances, you call police, no one does anything?
Nobody.
Is it okay for us to talk to them? They'll be okay with us. Yeah. What do you think it's okay to go? What's your
Don't go inside the house.
What's your vibe? I don't like your face, right? I don't know what to do. After a short debate, we decided not to follow up on the potentially infected neighbors, for fear of our own safety and because we didn't want to give the impression that we could provide help. So we're headed to West Point right now, which is the largest slum in Monrovia. Ebola hasn't hit there harder than it's hit anywhere else, but the government tried to quarantine it about a month ago, and riots broke out, a treatment center was looted, and the army actually opened fire and killed a child. So there's a lot of distrust of the government there. Liberia is still recovering from 2 brutal civil wars fought from 1989 to 2003. Additionally, many Liberians also see their government as woefully corrupt, with even President Ellen Sirleaf Johnson admitting corruption was endemic. Both of these reasons contribute to the lack of trust in the government and help explain why relations between the community of West Point and authorities are so strained. We're on our way to reach Katie Myler, who runs a tuition-free school for vulnerable girls in West Point. In recent weeks, her organization More Than Me has shifted to dealing with stopping the spread of Ebola in West Point. This includes creating awareness teams who go out and spread information on the virus. I mean, is it getting better here? Is it getting worse? Is the awareness helping?
Well, what's getting better is that as the disease or the virus is actually spreading and getting worse, the thing is that people have changed their minds. It's been a lot of chaos here, and that is because there hasn't been a lot of communication. The awareness team really just started recently, like within the last week. So, I mean, you had weeks where people were not really getting information, and every single day, you have 20 cases yesterday, 40 cases today, and you know that tomorrow it's going to be 70. So, every day it's like more and more people. And I know these sound like numbers, but when it's like my neighbor, for example, this morning I went to his house and he was sick. I was able to give him drugs, but he died this afternoon. It's like these are real people with real stories and real lives.
We are doing active case finding. That is, we are trying to locate all of the sick people.
Archie's team focuses on contact tracing, which locates sick people and tries to find out who came in contact with them and may also have been infected, so they can be monitored as well. So what can you do for her?
Trying to ensure that while she's here, she can be getting some medicine to be taken. She can be getting some food to keep her strong. Then as soon as we get available space back there, we can use the ambulance to take her out quickly.
And who's taking care of her? I mean, her daughter is young, she's here. Does she know how to take care of her? Does she know not to touch her and not to touch?
I just got to know about it today.
Okay.
I just got to know about it today.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to do now is to talk to one person, how to take care of her and how they are going to go in taking care of her.
Okay.
What are those steps, preventive steps they need to take to not have themselves in problem too.
Okay.
We're going to do that today.
So you're going to educate the family here
sure.
about how to take care of them?
How to take care of her. We are going to have the nurses coming in to closely look at her. They will also be out there trying to ensure that we find space quickly that the ambulance can take her to the hospital.
Ebola has an incubation period of anywhere from 2 to 21 days after coming in contact with it, meaning that it sometimes doesn't become apparent someone has it until 3 weeks later. Unfortunately, in a poor neighborhood like West Point, there's also lots of other diseases, like cholera and malaria, that show similar symptoms to Ebola, adding to the challenge of contact tracing.
Look at the place we live. For instance, if Ebola is West Point, it's telling us all of all are infected.
Yeah, there's different.
Look at the place where we live. Look at this water, it's very stained.
Yeah.
Look at this dumper.
So you're saying there's a lot of disease here anyway?
Yeah, there's a lot of disease. There's a lot of disease. We have cholera disease here. So many diseases in this community. Some people are dying, but different diseases, but not Ebola.
So you believe Ebola exists, you just don't think it's in West Point?
I believe Ebola is real, but not in West Point.
But not in West Point, okay. But don't you think that if you don't take the precautions, maybe Ebola will come here?
Yeah, that is true.
We're heading to meet Sam, the data manager for More Than Me, and another one of the staff leaders working in West Point. He recently returned to Liberia from decades of living abroad in America.
Left here when I was about 8 years old. I say about January, February. And I left and came home.
With everything happening right now, why are you sticking around? Why are you in West Point, trying to give your time and help out?
Because our people need help, our people need hope, and I think the people need individuals that they can trust, right? And I think part of the problem here with a lot of people not believing Ebola is real and this is a scam for the government to take money is because they don't trust the government. And I mean, they have a lot of reasons not to trust the government.
Ebola is a deadly disease. You must understand it.
Despite the chaotic scenes in West Point and outside treatment centers, in most of Monrovia, life moved along as normal as it could. It wasn't a zombie land. People all still went about their daily lives, with some added precautions put in place. The city was undergoing a heavy-duty awareness campaign, and most Liberian rappers had even recorded songs warning people to be careful. So we're headed into a Redemption Hospital right now, which is sort of in the belly of the beast here with the outbreak. It was supposed to be a holding center, but it turned into a treatment center because patients had nowhere to go. We headed in to meet the medical director, Dr. Mohammed Sango, who had been overseeing all efforts against Ebola.
So we have had series of deaths of our health workers. Lots of them have
died, you can see the difference between a developing country and a developed country like America. If you have Ebola in America and all the rest of it, all of those cases that went to America, none of them died. Do you know why? It is not because the virus per se. It is because of the way they handle the management of the disease.
And you don't have that capability here.
The capability is little or none at all. I've never seen such thing before. It's so difficult to contain this. We need helpers. We need those who have experienced such pandemic before to come to our aid.
Would it be possible to follow you around on camera and just get your rounds? But should we get cutaways?
Well, there are certain areas that you can't go.
Yeah, I mean we have PPE suits if you need us to put those on.
You want to go into the EPI? You want to go into the treatment center?
Would that be possible?
Well, if you want, but if I were you, I would not go. Because when you go there, listen carefully.
Yeah.
When you go there, first and foremost, you become infected and you become infectious. Until you take those things off. And in taking those things off, let me advise you. If you make a mistake in taking those things off, those infected materials, that's how you hear that. So my dear, let me tell you, just see what you can see. Go back home and meet your family again.
We heeded the doctor's advice and decided not to enter the treatment center. Instead, we headed back to MSF, who had recently started taking in patients again. So we're at the MSF clinic right now. They have about 160 beds here, and that's not enough at all. You know, they're doing the best they can, but people keep coming in and out. Last week, there were 100 survivors they were able to transfer out, but the worry right now is that this thing is increasing exponentially, and it's going to keep growing and growing and growing. How hard is it for you guys to turn people away at the gate that you know are sick and need help?
That's the worst things that we have to do on a daily basis. Also, with this specific disease, we have the risk of spreading when they go home. That's why we give the kit. It's one of the worst things, and what is also very difficult is that we don't know when it's going to stop, because as long as there is not enough beds capacity in the city, we will have to continue to do it.
Behind me right here is the MSF gate where people line up to get in. So every morning, you know, they come out here around 8:30, and judging by the people who have died last night and the people that have been released because, you know, they've stopped showing symptoms, that's how many people they can let in. And the people at the gate have to do a sort of triage where they see the sickest people. They let them in, they follow down this road right here, and you can see the seats down there where they await sort of the next step in the treatment that they're gonna get.
James is waiting for his test results to come back today, and then Dominic and him will find out if they get to go home.
Sophie told us about Dominic, who had tested positive for Ebola and recovered. When his 3-year-old nephew James was diagnosed as well, Dominic decided to come back to the clinic and help him recover. There is strong scientific evidence that once someone survives Ebola, they are immune to the strain with which they were infected. And you made the choice to come back in and take care of him. You weren't scared.
Well, when I was sick,
yeah,
there were other people around that took the risks.
To help.
Like came to me, talked to me, advised me, encouraged me. So I think that I got a strength I can do for other people as well.
Later that night, young James's test results came back negative. He had been cured of Ebola, and him and Dominic were able to leave the clinic. James is that clinic's youngest ever Ebola survivor. So as we've seen here at MSF and among the local Liberians that we've hung out with that are combating this thing, everyone's really doing all they can. You know, no one really has the capabilities, the infrastructure isn't in place, and no one really expected it to get this bad and for the epidemic to grow so quickly. There's hope that with the influx of US troops helping with the building of additional treatment centers, and the international community finally paying attention, the spread of Ebola in Liberia can be slowed. Some, however, feel the international community has responded too late, and it will now take a much bigger effort to get the outbreak under control.
Según la Organización Mundial de la Salud, este es el brote de ébola más grande y mortal en la historia, que ha dejado al menos 28,000 casos de infecciones y 11,000 muertes en Sierra Leona, Guinea y Liberia. Aunque ya no se considera una emergencia de salud pública internacional, se han detectado recientes brotes, pero ya existen nuevos tratamientos y medidas preventivas para atacar la enfermedad. La próxima semana, Vice News presenta un especial sobre la crisis en Ucrania.
Guys, why are you down here?
It's actually very simple. We are fighting for our freedom, that's all.
Vice News viajó a Ucrania para documentar desde el comienzo de la guerra civil las repercusiones políticas y sociales que ha dejado el conflicto.
Говорим прямо и определенно. Российских войск на Украине нет.
Busca más documentales y noticias de todo el mundo en vicenews.com, en el canal de YouTube o nuestra cuenta de Facebook, Vice News en Español, o en este mismo espacio la próxima semana.